we forgot to put on our tins that go on the bottom of the cylinder. And we also forgot the one that goes on the bottom of the head, which looks like this. Here's the bottom of that cylinder head, and they go right here. But this thing doesn't look like it wants to fit right. So I'm trying to figure that out. In the meantime, we've replaced these studs because the ones we had were for a single port. The dual port had these shorter ones here, so we replaced those. And like I say, I'm going to put that tin down on the bottom, then we'll go from there. Alright, so we're trying to put this in. This side's a little easier because those other bolts on the other side, there are bolts in the way. Total pain in the ass, by the way. I don't like that. I don't like how that fits up against. We need to get this to fit a little better. It's not quite fitting up against the cylinder. So I'm going to flatten this sucker out and see if we can get it to fit a little bit better. Looks okay on the bottom. The top's just not winding me up. Yeah, that's better. I mean, all they do is just sit there like that. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. Alright, so cylinder 10 cooling. That fits a little better. I think I like that better. You want them as tight up against that as you can get it. This one tends to run hot anyway, from what they say. So I'm just going to kind of tap it around a little bit and see if that'll, once it's tightened down, the head and everything, it'll be alright. But I think I'm okay with that. I was going to get those fancy cool tins, like they call them, but everybody says it's garbage, so I didn't do it. Hope I don't regret that. Next thing is the oil pump. Here's all the gears, the new pump. I did full flow the case. I was thinking I'm not going to use this, but I'm going to now. This just kind of sits here. I think it'll be easier to prime it. I'm going to use the fitting that goes in here and take a hose and fill the pump. Try it that way instead of putting Vaseline and stuff in it. Actually, I might still put some Vaseline in it, but I think that'll kind of get me some oil inside of there. So, I'm going to goop up my gaskets and get that sucker put in there. They give you these really super thin gaskets. That's the one that goes on the block or case. And then this one goes right here, like this. So let's goop them up. First thing I'm going to do is loosen these nuts in the front, just along here. That way it'll make it easier to get that pump in there. I put goop, that aviation goop, on the back side of this. Now we're just going to do the front, where it goes up against the pump. These studs I will replace because I bought the pump from CB and it comes with bolts to replace it. I know I'm getting kind of carried away over here on the side, but I'm going to scrape that off with my little plastic razor blades. Those things work great. Never used this aviation sealant before, but I kind of like it. I've always been kind of a Permatex kind of guy, but I can see where that might cause some clearance issues. So going forward, I think I'm going to use this a lot more because it never really dries. That's the kind of the cool part about it. So, learn something every day. All right, so that's all gooped up. I'm gonna go get the pump and get her on there. Here's our pump. I'm sure it's gonna be hard to get in there because I already put the case together and then I undid the bolts. So it goes in like so. I'm just gonna put that on. I won't bore you to death with that part, and then I'll come back in when I get it on there. Okay, other gasket's on. I've just got these threaded in there just to keep things aligned. That is the thinnest so-called gasket that I've ever seen. I mean, it'd be easy to rip that. Anyway, let's put the face on there. Actually, we'll get the pump gears in first, then we'll put the face on. And I'm just going to show how these go in. This just kind of goes in like so. There is a slot in the back of the cam that runs this, and I can feel it went in. And then this just goes like so. I'm going to put some assembly lube on these, and just kind of the red goopy stuff just to help build oil pressure. But I'll take them back out, do that, and show you the finished product. So there it is, all gooped up. Some people use Vaseline, some people do whatever. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. So CB Performance gives you these bolts to put this cover on, and that's going to go on next. I'm filming this by myself, so I kind of have to set things down, put them back. Anyway, I'm going to do that, and then we'll bolt her on. Alright, so I run a little blue thread locker on most everything. A little dab will do ya. Don't need a lot of it. And then this just goes in like so. As long as I don't cross thread it. I'll run all these down. I kind of got to take them in and out to keep things from moving. Then I'll put some goop on these other two, just here and here. Then we'll tighten it up. There's the finished product. Everything's a small project, one at a time type thing. That's done, then we'll tighten these back up, all these little nuts, and the oil pump is in. On to the next thing. I'm trying to measure my push rods for the old Volkswagen. I got my dial indicator set up. I'm going to set my rocker shafts on here and see if we can measure this out. I'm using lash caps on these. They're stainless steel valves. Yeah, so I'm going to put this thing in here, adjust everything up, and see what we come up with. I've never done this before, ever. Usually I just rebuild the motor back the way that it's supposed to be and just call it good. But this thing's a lot more custom than anything I've ever done. Alright, so the way I understand it is I adjust this push rod, which I should have done this without the push rod tubes on, but I'm not that smart. I'm doing this kind of backwards. Not backwards, just... Yeah, let's see. So I'm supposed to spin this thing up because it's all the way at the bottom. It's a little harder to do without the ding. If these weren't in the way, I'd be... But yeah, I should have done it before. It's just harder. I'm using chromoly push rods, so I'm supposed to go to 0 lash on this deal, which means this thing's just supposed to spin under here, which is where I'm at right now. None of this stuff's hard, but man, it's time consuming. So let's put these on. I'm not doing them up super tight. I'm just trying to get this measurement and then go from there. I couldn't use my old rocker shafts because of the cam that I put in it, because they say that the little wave washer things break on the stock stuff. So I'm just trying to get this kind of tight. It is not down all the way. No wonder, right? I just noticed that. Let's pull this out of the way. Oops. I'm going to turn the motor over, and this valve's going to go down. The rocker arm's going to go down until it kind of starts coming back up. And then we're going to put this thing in a position where I can measure just what that valve's doing. It's going to come back up, so it should come all the way back up. And then I'll know how much travel I've got. I got 0.410. I need to go to half of that, which would be 0.205, right? At that point, I need to see if these things are level across. But it's hard to see from this camera angle, but this ball socket thing is lower than here. That's supposed to be a mid lift, so this rocker shaft's got to come up. So I'm going to tear it all apart and do it over again. And I'll come back in once I figure out where everything's right. So here's the deal. I have shimmed these up, the shaft. I've ran this up and down, checking this dial indicator. What's on here now doesn't mean anything. And I'm at the point where they're shimmed up too high, really. I guess you can run them that way, but I'm not liking it. Apparently, this needs to be clearanced so that these can go back up inside farther, so you don't have to run a big old shim, so that your push rod length isn't too long. So I'm going to tear this off, tear it apart. There's a person that you send them to, and he reworks them and sends them back, and they're supposed to be golden. So I guess that's where I'll stop this video. I know this is taking forever, but I just figured as I run into problems, I would show that instead of showing everything's peachy and groovy and all that good stuff. So I'm going to tear this apart, ship the stuff off, and I'll catch you on the next one.